friends, welcome back. It's that time again for another monthly wrap up where we talk about the books that I've read this past month. So if you are here to hear about the books that I read in March, then just keep watching. So this month I have finished 7 books and I'm currently on my 8th book. I'm filming this video a few days before the end of the month, so I'm not totally sure if I'm gonna have that book finished before or after the end of the month, so I will talk about it a little bit at the end. So let's start from the beginning. The first book that I finished this month was All Be Gone in the Dark by McNamara. I was looking, so I've been listening to a few true crime podcasts lately, and I was kind of in the mood to dive a little bit deeper and listen to a true crime book. I actually really enjoyed this book. I rated it 4 stars on GoodReads, and basically this book is it's like a deep dive into the Golden State Killer, who, if you don't know who that was, basically the Golden State Killer was this like super creepy guy. He would sneak into people's houses and murder them, and he would do so like he would sneak in to like even couples like sleeping in their bed and just murder them. And he terrorized basically like the Bay Area, Sacramento, I believe in the 80s, I want to say. I forget the exact time period. And what makes it even more scary is he killed so many people and he was just never caught for a very, very long time. So if you're interested in learning more about the Golden State Killer, I would recommend I'll Be Gone in the Dark. It was a creepy but good book. The second book that I finished this month was called Tightrope. I got this as a book of the month pick, and this book, I think I gave it 4 stars. I don't know, looking back on it, maybe I would drop that to 3 stars, but I'm not gonna lie, this book was depressing. Basically, it's a deep dive into this small town, and like basically the town is going downhill. Like there's all these people from this town who have died early from drug issues, from like health issues of despair, like really poor health due to drug use, obesity, poor diet. Like it talks about poverty, homelessness, issues with like lack of access to healthcare. It talks about all that kind of stuff, and I thought it was interesting for the subject matter. It had a lot of like real life examples and stuff like that, but it was depressing, you know, it was depressing, but that's all I have to say about that one. Okay, so the next book I read was YouTube Secrets by Cannell, I don't know how you say his name. I rated this book 3 stars. If you're not familiar, Sean has several YouTube channels. He focuses on like growing your YouTube channel, growing your social media presence. He has like tech gear reviews, camera stuff. It's a very short book. I think if you're like newer to making YouTube videos, it's more useful. And well, this channel is relatively new. I do have another YouTube channel, and so I've been kind of learning about this kind of stuff for a while. Obviously I have a long way to go. This channel is still pretty small, but like a lot of the tips and tricks like are pretty like basic. Like it's good, solid, like foundational stuff that I think is definitely useful, and like anyone who has a YouTube channel could implement some of these things. But it's not really like secrets, you know, it's just like foundational stuff. But yeah, that was the 3rd book. The 4th book, I think this was my only 5-star book of the month, and this is The Only Plane in the Sky, An Oral History of 9/11. I would highly recommend this book. Essentially what this book is it's as the description says, it's an oral history of 9/11. So basically it takes a bunch of snippets from people who are firsthand witnesses of 9/11. So it has people's personal accounts of, for example, people who are actually in the World Trade Center towers, like on the day that they collapsed and they escaped. They had people from inside the planes when they were calling to try to get help. They had people from in the Pentagon. They had accounts from government officials who were involved, people like police officers and firefighters in the cleanup effort. So really a wide range of people who are all there and witnessed and experienced 9/11 firsthand. This is not like a history book where you're gonna learn about like people's names and like the geopolitical implications and stuff like that. That's not what it's about. It really is just about getting that firsthand perspective of people who were there. So it was very moving. It was very emotional to listen to this book, but nevertheless, I think it's like almost 20 years out from 9/11. I think it's absolutely worth the read. I would also really recommend the audiobook for a few reasons. They do have some actual like real recordings in the audio version, and I thought it was just really powerful to actually hear the words being read aloud. There are actors. It's not all read by the people who actually spoke those words, but nevertheless, I think the audio version is the way to go in my opinion from this book. So yeah, that was the next book I read. Next book I read was a mystery thriller, and that is The Holdout. This is a book that I rated like 3 to 3.5 stars. I thought it was really solid. So basically it follows members of a jury from a murder trial, and I thought what was really unique about this book is a lot of it does not actually take place in the courtroom. It's centered around the topic of a court case, but a lot of it is focused on what happens afterwards and kind of the aftermath of the outcome of the trial. So yeah, I would really recommend it if you've read a lot of mysteries and thrillers lately and you just are looking for something a little different. I would recommend checking out The Holdout. And I do have a full 3-minute thriller review for that one if you're interested in learning more about my thoughts. Okay, and I feel like I couldn't go through the whole month without reading a book about coronavirus and COVID-19 and all the stuff that's happening now with that. I actually made a whole video about books about the coronavirus if you're interested in learning more about viruses and stuff like that. But the book I read was Deadliest Enemy, Our War Against Killer Germs. And actually I lied. This was another 5-star book for me. I would really recommend it. It was published before the start of the coronavirus, of this new coronavirus. So it's not specifically about this one. I think reading this book is just so eerie and crazy to read because so much of the stuff that the author talks about in this book is literally the stuff that is happening now. And it honestly made me just mad reading this book because we have so much knowledge about these viruses and it may seem like this stuff is just catching everyone off guard, but we should have been more prepared for what's happening now. And this book, I think it talks about coronaviruses, it talks about flus, but it also talks about other types of illnesses like mosquito-borne illnesses, antibiotic-resistant illnesses. So it's definitely worth the read. If you're not too paranoid about this stuff already and you want to deep dive into a little bit more, I would really, really recommend that book. Okay, and the last book that I finished this month was Where Is It? And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And this book, I also posted a 3-minute thriller review, so you can hear my full thoughts there. Long story short, I think this book is worth reading for the purposes of like reading a historical classic thriller. This book was published in 1939 or 1940. So I thought it was super interesting to just like get a little window back in time of the thrillers of from that era. So I thought that was super interesting. But I'm gonna be honest, I was spoiled on this book. I made the mistake of Googling it. I was not looking for anything. I did not want to be spoiled, but Google, it will do that. It will just spoil the book for you. So don't Google this book if you're interested in reading it. I gave it 3 stars. I thought the actual book was good, not amazing, but I feel like I'm kind of jaded because I was spoiled, so I was not surprised by the ending. But yeah, that was the last book that I actually finished this month. And then the final book that I've read a bit of that I don't know if I will finish this month or not is Miracle Creek. After I finished The Holdout, I was on a little bit of a bug of like reading more courtroom type of books. So I just started this book. I'm like 50 pages in right now. And I have to say, I am really liking it so far. It is super dark and like it feels more real than some of the other like thrillers that I read that are just like so over the top, like crazy murders with like all these like crazy stuff. It feels more real, which makes it even creepier and scarier. Basically, what this book is about a like alternative medicine facility that basically is used for people with health conditions, including children with autism. And something goes very wrong at this clinic, and there's a resulting court case, and essentially the story is taking us through that court case. So far it is really captivating, and I think this could be a 5-star thriller for me. Obviously I will follow up with you when I'm done with it, but yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have read any of these books and want to share your thoughts, I would absolutely love to know your thoughts on these books. And that's it. Bye guys.